Have you ever wondered why you dream so big but act so small? You imagine building a successful business, writing a book, starting a YouTube channel, becoming financially free, living a life you're proud of. These dreams don't feel impossible. In fact, they feel completely achievable. But when it's time to take the first step, you hesitate. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. Tomorrow turns into next week. Next week quietly becomes next year. Then one night, you're lying in bed wondering, why can't I make myself do the things I care about most? If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Millions of people live with a strange combination of being deeply ambitious and constantly inactive. From the outside, it looks like laziness. But psychology suggests something very different. Most people who call themselves lazy don't actually lack ambition. They lack an understanding of what their brain is trying to do. And once you understand that, you stop blaming yourself and start seeing the real problem. Because the battle isn't between success and failure. It's between two different parts of your mind. And one of them has been winning for years. Your brain has one job above everything else. It isn't to make you rich. It isn't to help you achieve your dreams. It isn't even to make you happy. Its first priority is to keep you safe. Thousands of years ago, this helped humans survive. Avoiding risk meant avoiding danger. Taking fewer chances often meant living longer. The problem is that your brain still follows those ancient rules. Today, the biggest risks aren't wild animals. They're rejection, failure, embarrassment, uncertainty. But your brain reacts to them almost the same way. Every time you think about starting something important, your brain doesn't only see the reward. It also sees everything that could go wrong. What if I fail? What if people judge me? What if I'm not good enough? Those thoughts create emotional discomfort, and your brain immediately looks for the fastest way to remove that discomfort. Not by solving the problem, but by avoiding it. That's why you suddenly feel like checking your phone, watching another video, cleaning your room, or doing anything except the task that actually matters. It feels like laziness, but it's really your brain choosing comfort over uncertainty. This is why motivation is so unreliable. Most people think motivation comes first, then action follows. But psychologists have found that it's often the opposite. Action creates motivation. Imagine pushing a heavy bicycle that's standing still. The first push feels difficult. But once the wheels begin turning, keeping it moving becomes much easier. Your brain works the same way. The hardest part isn't doing the work. It's beginning. Because before you start, your brain only sees effort. After you start, it begins seeing progress. And progress creates momentum. The problem is that most people never stay long enough to experience that shift. They quit during the hardest moment, the first few minutes. Modern life makes this even worse. Think about how often your attention is interrupted. A notification appears. You check one message, then another. A short video becomes 10. 10 minutes quietly becomes an hour. By the end of the day, you've been busy the entire time, but somehow accomplished almost nothing. This isn't happening because you're weak. It's happening because your brain loves immediate rewards. Every notification gives you a tiny burst of dopamine. Dopamine isn't the chemical that makes you happy. It's the chemical that makes you want more. One more swipe. One more video. One more refresh. Compared to those instant rewards, working toward a long-term goal feels slow and unrewarding. Your brain naturally follows the easier source of dopamine. That's why scrolling feels effortless while meaningful work feels exhausting. The problem isn't your ambition. The problem is what your attention has been trained to chase. There's another hidden reason ambitious people stay stuck. They confuse planning with progress. Thinking about success feels productive. Researching ideas feels productive. Watching videos about success feels productive. But none of those things actually move your life forward. Your brain receives the excitement of imagining success without doing the difficult work required to reach it. It's like standing at the bottom of a mountain, studying maps every day, but never taking the first step. The dream stays alive, but your life stays the same. Eventually, the gap between who you are and who you want to become keeps growing. And with that gap comes guilt. Not because you aren't capable, but because deep down, you know you're living below your potential. That guilt becomes heavier every day. Ironically, the heavier it becomes, the more your brain wants to escape it. So you distract yourself again, and the cycle starts over. But here's the interesting part. This cycle isn't caused by laziness. It's created by a psychological pattern that quietly controls almost every decision you make. And unless you recognize that pattern, you'll keep waiting for motivation that never arrives. So what is this hidden pattern that keeps pulling you back? Psychologists often describe it as an avoidance loop. It begins with a simple feeling, discomfort. You sit down to work on something important. Maybe it's starting your business, writing your first chapter, editing your next YouTube video, or applying for a better job. Within seconds, your brain notices something uncomfortable. The task looks difficult. The outcome feels uncertain. Failure seems possible. And almost instantly, your mind searches for an escape. You check your phone, open social media, watch one video, reply to messages that aren't urgent. Suddenly, the uncomfortable feeling disappears. Your brain feels relieved. And that's the problem. Every time you escape discomfort, your brain learns an important lesson. Avoiding difficult work makes me feel better. The next time you're faced with the same challenge, escaping becomes even easier. Without realizing it, you've trained your brain to avoid the very things that could improve your life. That's why procrastination gets stronger over time. Not because you're becoming lazier, because your brain is becoming more efficient at escaping discomfort. There's another reason this cycle becomes so powerful. The longer you avoid something, the bigger it feels. Think about making one difficult phone call. If you do it today, it might take 5 minutes. But if you avoid it for a month, your mind turns it into something enormous. Now it feels stressful, complicated, almost impossible. The task hasn't changed. Only your perception has. Your brain keeps adding emotional weight to something that was never that heavy to begin with. This is why many people feel exhausted before they even start working. They're not tired because of the work. They're tired because they've spent weeks carrying the anxiety of avoiding it. Sometimes, the fear of doing the task becomes much worse than the task itself. Then comes another silent trap. Perfectionism. Most people believe perfectionism is about having high standards. In reality, it's often about fear. You tell yourself you'll begin when you know more, when you have better equipment, when you feel more confident, when everything is perfectly planned. But that day never arrives, because perfect is always moving further away. Your brain loves perfection because it's the safest excuse to delay action. As long as you're preparing, you never have to risk failure. But there's a hidden cost. Every day spent preparing without acting slowly weakens your confidence. Because confidence doesn't grow from planning. It grows from experience. No one becomes good before they begin. They become good because they begin. Another mistake ambitious people make is comparing themselves to everyone else. You open social media. Someone your age is buying a house. Another person has 1 million subscribers. Someone else built a successful company. Within minutes, your own progress feels meaningless. But here's what your brain forgets. You're comparing your everyday life to someone else's highlight reel. You don't see the failures, the sleepless nights, the years nobody noticed. You only see the finished result. Psychologists have found that constant comparison reduces motivation because it shifts your attention away from your own growth. Instead of asking, "What can I improve today?" you start asking, "Why am I not already there?" Those are two completely different questions. One creates progress. The other creates frustration. Real growth begins when you stop measuring your life against someone else's timeline. The only person you need to compete with is yesterday's version of yourself. Your identity also plays a bigger role than you think. Imagine repeating this sentence every day. "I'm lazy." Soon, your brain accepts it as truth. And once something becomes part of your identity, your actions begin to match it. Behavioral psychologists call this self-consistency. People naturally behave in ways that support the story they believe about themselves. That's why labels can become dangerous. Instead of saying, "I'm lazy," try saying, "I've built habits that keep me stuck." Notice the difference. The first sentence sounds permanent. The second sounds temporary. Habits can change. Identities can grow. But only if you stop treating your current behavior as your permanent personality. Here's something else most people never realize. Your environment quietly shapes your decisions. If your phone is always within reach, you'll probably pick it up. If your workspace is full of distractions, your attention will constantly wander. This isn't because your willpower is weak. It's because your brain always chooses the easiest path. Successful people don't rely on endless self-control. They remove unnecessary temptations before they become problems. They make focus easier than distraction. Small changes create powerful results. Putting your phone in another room, closing unnecessary tabs, preparing tomorrow's work before going to bed. These seem like tiny decisions, but they reduce the number of choices your brain has to make. And fewer decisions mean more energy for meaningful work. Because the less your brain has to fight distractions, the easier action becomes. But understanding these patterns is only half the battle. The real question is this: how do you actually retrain your brain to stop avoiding discomfort and finally become someone who takes action consistently? That's exactly what we'll explore in the final part. Because lasting change doesn't begin with motivation. It begins with one small decision your brain never expects. So, if your brain has been trained to avoid discomfort, can it be trained to do the opposite? Yes. And that's one of the most amazing things about the human brain. Neuroscientists call it neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to change through repeated experience. Every action you repeat strengthens a mental pathway. Imagine walking across an empty field. The first time, it's difficult because there's no path. Walk the same route every day, and soon a trail begins to appear. After a while, following that trail becomes effortless. Your habits work exactly the same way. Every time you choose distraction, you strengthen the habit of distraction. Every time you choose action, you strengthen the habit of action. You aren't just finishing a task. You're teaching your brain what kind of person you are becoming. That's why consistency matters more than intensity. Working for 30 focused minutes every day will change your life far more than working 10 hours once a month. Your brain doesn't change because of rare moments of inspiration. It changes because of repeated behavior. This is why trying to change everything overnight almost never works. Many people create the perfect plan. They promise to wake up early, exercise every day, eat perfectly, read books, learn new skills, work for hours without distractions. For a few days, everything feels exciting. Then reality returns. They miss one workout, skip one day of work, sleep in once, and suddenly they think, "I've already failed," so they quit completely. This is called the all-or-nothing mindset. Your brain believes that if you can't do everything perfectly, there's no point doing anything at all. But lasting change doesn't happen that way. Real progress is messy. Some days you'll do a lot. Some days you'll do very little. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is to keep coming back. One imperfect day never ruins your future. Giving up does. Here's another important truth. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after it. Think about every skill you've ever learned. Driving, swimming, speaking in front of people. You weren't confident on the first day. You became confident because you practiced. The same is true for every dream you have today. Starting a business, creating content, changing careers, improving your health. You'll never feel completely ready. And that's okay, because readiness isn't what creates progress. Action does. Every small win gives your brain evidence. Evidence builds belief. Belief slowly changes your identity. And once your identity changes, your actions begin to feel natural instead of forced. There's one more trap you need to avoid. Consuming instead of creating. Many ambitious people spend years learning, watching motivational videos, reading productivity books, listening to podcasts. researching the perfect strategy. Learning is valuable, but only if it leads to action. Otherwise, it becomes another form of procrastination. Think of it this way. You could read every book about fitness in the world, but your body won't become stronger until you exercise. Knowledge creates possibilities. Action creates results. Some point you have to stop preparing for life and start living it. You probably already know your next step. Maybe it's making one phone call, writing one page, recording one video, sending one application. The question isn't whether you know what to do. The question is whether you'll finally do it. There will still be difficult days. Days when you feel tired. Days when nothing seems to work. Days when old habits return. Don't let those moments convince you that you've failed. Every successful person has setbacks. The difference is they don't let one bad day become a bad month. Instead of asking, "Why did I fail?" ask, "What's the smallest action I can take right now?" Maybe it's only 5 minutes of work. Maybe it's opening your notebook. Maybe it's organizing tomorrow's tasks. Small actions keep momentum alive, and momentum is far more valuable than perfection. Remember, success isn't built by giant moments. It's built by ordinary days repeated consistently. Finally, stop calling yourself lazy. Words matter. The labels you repeat become the beliefs you carry. You aren't lazy. You've simply practiced avoiding discomfort for a long time. And anything practiced can be replaced with something better. Every day you choose action over comfort, you're rewriting the story your brain believes. You're proving that your past habits don't control your future. The version of yourself you admire isn't born with more talent. They simply learned to act before they felt ready. You can learn that too. Not tomorrow. Not next Monday. Today. Because the life you want isn't created by one massive breakthrough. It's created by hundreds of small decisions that almost nobody notices. One page written. One workout completed. One difficult conversation. One promise kept. Those small actions seem insignificant in the moment, but together, they become a completely different life. So before this video ends, ask yourself one question. A year from now, will you still be waiting for motivation? Or will you become the person who takes action even when motivation disappears? Your future won't be decided by your dreams. It will be decided by what you do after watching this video. Because ambition without action remains a fantasy. But small, consistent action has the power to reshape your brain, your habits, and eventually your entire life. The first step doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to happen. And maybe that first step begins today.